started.
You're welcome. Who else need an agenda on that? Hey, Dana.
Something school won't teach them. So.
No.
Okay,
No.
I call the meeting of the Road Valley Sewer Services Budget Committee meeting to order. And can we have a roll call, please?
Eleanor Connemara.
Here.
Anna D'Amato.
Here.
Kay Harrison.
Here.
Jim Snyder. Terry Sackett. Mike Parsons.
Here.
Aaron Prunty. Roger Tom.
Present.
Mike Parker.
Here.
John Vile.
Here.
Excellent, thank you. So we can do, does everybody know each other?
Pretty well.
I think we'll do introductions first before we do the election of the chair and secretary. That way, you know who you're putting the finger on. when you ask somebody. Okay. So we're gonna start over there with John, and then we'll work our way around. Okay. Well, and Brenda can introduce herself too.
I'm Brenda Baldovino, finance director.
She's a money person.
John Baum, member of the Budget Committee, and I'm currently serving as the Public Works Director for the city. And I'm Carl Zafford, the manager for Road Valley Sewer.
Roger Tom, Board of Directors.
Mike Parker, Board of Directors, RVS, 25 years.
Eleanor Number of Talent City Council.
Mike Parsons, Board Member, Central Point City Council, Central Point Police Department, Coordinator of our volunteers. You need to get busy. I can go on.
Yeah.
I'll keep it short.
That's okay. A short meeting. I'm Kay Harrison. I'm the chairman of the RVSS board. I'm also on the planning commission for Central Point. And I'm glad to have everybody here. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you for being here.
Anna D'Amato, resident of talent. I'm also on the talent commission.
Carol Balzer, IT manager and periodic deputy manager when Carl's not here.
And Joan Perry, I'm the executive secretary.
She takes care of us. Okay, so now with all the introductions, let's go ahead and I will take a motion for election of chair for the budget committee. And I'll speak at once, but somebody can nominate anybody.
I nominate Colonel Balzer.
Anybody on the
I
committee?
think we have to be somebody else besides Stan.
Oh, you gotta define it.
I'm sorry, I did not define.
Thanks, Mike.
Is there someone that wants to run this meeting?
If everybody's being so quiet, I'll volunteer. I mean, that's.
I'll nominate
I-
Mike Parsons.
Yeah, you know, I was just about ready to nominate Roger, so.
I'm still eating.
Okay,
Close the nomination for Mike Parsons, please.
okay. So we've got a nomination for Mike Parsons. Is there anyone else?
I'll second it.
Okay. Should I close the nominations?
You have to nominate a secretary as well.
I know, but I usually do one at a time.
Okay.
Okay, that's just the way I do it. Okay, so everybody in favor of Mike running the meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Look at yourself. Okay, and that's, as soon as we get the secretary, okay, now I'll take nominations for secretary. And Roger's still eating. And Anna's eating, and Eleanor, you're not, so. I
think John's not eating.
Okay, we can nominate John, he's not eating.
Also move that one.
Okay.
I don't think you have to take notes, John.
All right.
Probably just have to sign something.
John takes care of all that for you.
That's all you have to do. So
Joan will print out the minutes and you'll verify that they're accurate.
it's pretty easy. Did I hear a second on that one? Oh, okay. So it's moved and seconded. And so all those in favor of John being our secretary, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, John's our secretary, Mike's our chairman, and I hand it over to Mike. Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank you all for being here for this proposed budget for the Rural Valley Sewer Services year end in 2024. It's a vital process. We know those that are here that aren't paid employees are volunteers, and we appreciate your volunteers. Next order of business is the budget message read by the budget officer.
Okay, that is me. This is the boring part where I just read the letter. but do it. This is the same letter in the
Yeah.
packet. Yeah. Okay.
Just read them.
Yeah, okay. Let's get to the fight. Okay. Okay. I'm pleased to present the Road Valley Sewer Services budget for fiscal year 2024. This is a balanced budget where our resources equal our requirements. Every year, we submit our budget to the Oregon Municipal Finance Officers Association and the Government Finance Officers Association of Oregon. Okay, for a review and critique, and I'm happy to report that once again, we've received a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from GFO. Our top priority is to maintain balanced budget in accordance with state law, and so doing it is our policy to not use debt to finance any of our operating expenses. We remain consistent with that policy and will not be using debt to finance any operating expenses. RVSS maintains an active capital improvement program that is designed to ensure adequate capacity and to rehabilitate older sections of pipe before they fail. At this point in time, we do not have any capacity deficiencies in the system. Our rehabilitation program calls for replacement of approximately 2 miles of pipe per year. This work is funded through a combination of SDCs and rates. Revenue trends, while we are projecting our total revenue to come slightly above our current year's budget. Sorry.
That's right.
I have a thing on the letters. The main difference comes from the sale of 2 older dump trucks. Service charge revenue is projected to come on budget, and STC revenue is projected to come in slightly below our budget. Long-term trends indicate steady growth in our service area. The 1-year decline in SDC revenue may be an indication that higher interest rates are slowing development, but we have yet to see significant change in project plan submittals. We are still projecting a modest 1.5% growth rate in our service area for fiscal year 2024. This helps mitigate some of the impact of the high inflation over the past 2 years. Our rate analysis for this year is recommending an increase in the single-family residential rates from $24 to $25.50 per month. For Shady Cove, the proposed increase is from $46.25 to $50 per month. And here's a table showing our history of rates over the last 5 years. Recent survey of 117 sewer service providers in Oregon revealed that the average residential sewer rate of $58.36 per month, and our rate remains one of the lowest in the state. I think it is the lowest that I can find this year, but it might be somebody. Special items of interest, the bipartisan infrastructure law. We have submitted applications for 3 projects to DEQ for funding through the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. We're in the process of clearing environmental issues for these projects. Our expectation is that once we have these loans approved, we will be awarded some level of loan principal forgiveness. Since this is not guaranteed at this point, we have not included that in any principal forgiveness in our budget projections. Medford Treatment Plant, the Regional Rate Committee has approved a 10% increase in the treatment rate for fiscal years 2024 and 25. A portion of this increase will be dedicated to a capital reserve fund to help with costs of anticipated treatment plant upgrades. Medford is in the process of preparing a facilities plan for the plant, and this should be completed in September of 2023. We're anticipating there will be major upgrades to the plant to meet the new permit requirements. Our capital improvement plan includes $6.1 million in spending across all funds. Almost all of the design work is being done in-house. For debt service, we have paid off our 2013 bond series 6 years ahead of schedule, which will save us approximately $220,000 in interest payments over the next 6 years. Our only current debt obligations will be through Shady Cove, which cannot be retired until at least 2026. The annual debt service there is approximately $126,000 per year. Debt service on the planned DEQ loans does not begin until the projects are complete. Shady Cove, we are proposing a rate increase in Shady Cove from $46.25 to $50 per month. 75% of this revenue is used for the treatment plant operations in Fund 50, and the remaining is transferred to our general fund to support collection operations. The White City Lagoons generates revenue from tipping fees charged to septic tank and grease interceptor pumpers. Surplus from the White City Lagoon Fund is transferred to the Treatment Capital Reserve Fund 55, and we're budgeting a surplus of $200,000 for 2024. We are in the final stages of constructing a significant upgrade to the lagoon. The improvements will initially create 3 smaller, partially mixed lagoons. In the future, we plan to construct drying beds and a site for future composting facilities. This will dramatically increase the effectiveness and capacity of the lagoon, allowing us to remove the limits on the amount of waste we receive from the pumpers. A side effect of these improvements is that we will open up a large portion of the South Sill for enhancement of bird habitat. This area has long been popular with bird watchers, and we are working with several local organizations to develop a management plan that will enable us to regulate the amount of water in the area and create a more suitable conditions for bird habitat. Gold Hill. I think.
Do we have enough time for this?
So last year, the board of directors agreed to extend our management agreement with Gold Hill for 1 year. We included a provision in the agreement that we would not extend any further unless the city agrees to annex into RVSS. The city decided not to move forward towards annexation and a regional connection, prompting RVSS to terminate our management agreement. The city has subsequently reconsidered this position and may still move to annexation. None of this will be settled in time for budget approval. For budget purposes, we are assuming that revenues and expenses for fiscal 24 will be the same as in fiscal 23. And just an update on that. Last week, 2 weeks ago, it was last week, Gold Hill City Council passed a resolution asking us to annex. Next week, they're planning to take up look at the annexation agreement that we drafted that will kind of spell out how that would happen. And that needs to come back to our board of directors in May. And if our board of directors accepts the resolution and agrees to the annexation, then it goes to the voters in August.
Is this a whole new board they got?
Yes.
You know how that rotates.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took, well, I don't know, I think about half of them are different from they were a year ago. So.
Wow.
Staffing. Over the past year, we've made some organizational changes to improve the efficiency of operations. The treatment department has been moved into operations and maintenance, and the stormwater is now part of engineering. Our full staff level sits at 40 full-time employees. However, one of these now is currently vacant. We have traditionally made annual cost of living adjustments to employee wages based on consumer price index. Last year, the index was 7.5%, and based on the idea that the high rate of inflation was temporary, the COLA was set at 5%. After another year of very high inflation, we are proposing that the COLA be set at the January 2023 CPI rate of 6.4%, plus an additional 3%. The additional 3% will be used to create a retirement health savings account for non-exempt staff. I would like to thank each of you for taking time out of your schedule to participate in the budget process. Your input and insights are extremely valuable in helping us remain a responsible and responsive government agency. Our finance director, Brenda Valdivino, and I are all available to answer any questions you have about the budget. And please do not hesitate to call us if you have questions or concerns. Thank you.
Very nice letter.
The next order of business is the budget message. No, chair calls for the presentation of the budget by the budget officer.
Okay, so the way I'm going to do this is basically go through the budget page by page. A lot of it I'm going to skip through really fast because, some of the charts and things like that, maybe don't need to be built on much. But and there's some certain areas that I have highlighted that I just want to elaborate on. But if anything comes up that you have a question about or concern about or anything, jump in and interrupt me, and we'll try to answer whatever questions you have as best as we can. So let me make that a little bit smaller. So our history and background, that's just nice reading just to see kind of where we are and where we've been. And it is always being updated. Our mission value, our mission statement is to manage, maintain, improve storm and wastewater systems to protect and preserve public health, quality of life, and economic vitality in the community. And we've identified, we went through a strategic planning process a couple years ago, and that's where we identified what our core values of the organization are. So that's here. Our financial policies, you can read through that. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but basically this kind of outline.
I read through those.
You did?
Do you have a
Any questions
question?
about them?
Yes, please. So I guess it's not really budget related too much. On number 2, we state every effort will be made to assist those who must connect and are unable to pay. So I'm wondering to what extent is that?
So we do offer financing. Like if somebody wants to connect, we would offer financing both to cover STCs and construction costs. And they would pay that back over time. There are state provisions that assist certain low-income people to pay for that as well. That doesn't come up very often. There is a program.
That's reimbursed by the state, perhaps?
Yeah. That's reimbursed to the state. There's a program through Access.
I guess I was wondering more if we contribute it?
No, we get paid for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, we did try to make it easy for people to we don't give discounts for SDCs or anything like that. I mean, it all gets paid. It's just, there's different programs that are available to provide assistance to people. To make it easy for them. Yeah.
Just a follow-up, in case of non-payment, an existing connection is unable to pay.
So because we don't control the water supply, we have the ability to certify delinquent accounts on their property taxes. So every year we go through that process where we'll identify all the people that are delinquent, we send them all letters saying you got to pay, or if you don't pay, you're going to get certified. And most of them say, oh, no, and they pay. And then some of them don't. And we end up certifying, what, about $200,000 a year on average. That just goes on their property taxes. Some people do that on purpose. Some people like that provision. I don't know why.
Because we had a fee.
Yeah.
There's a fee on top of the late balance that's also been accruing late fees. But
Yeah, but unlike water, there's no way to cut it off.
Yeah.
It's just a
Correct.
matter of
Yes.
collecting.
Right.
Exactly,
Applying
yeah.
fees after the fact.
yeah, we don't send it into collections. That's how we do it, is put it on their property tax. And then Jackson County sends us
Yeah.
money as they receive their property tax.
So it's on the other.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why we currently don't bill renters anymore on residential. We stopped that about 8 years ago. And we only bill the owners of the residential properties.
Okay. Any other questions on the financial policy side? Okay. Budget calendar, we're up to April 26th. So hopefully we'll have everything ready to go by our June board meeting to adopt the budget. It describes the process of how that works and the role of the budget committee. This is a map of our service area, as it's today. This is our organizational structure. Kind of, the text is kind of hard based on the size of that, but the red is our operations department, the blue is our engineering, the yellow is the administrative.
That's
Yeah. Joe understands. Okay, fund department matrix, that's just kind of information on how our funds are organized in relationship to the departments that we have. So now we get into some numbers. Not too fast. Okay. So this is just the all funds combined, and this is just to give you a good overview of the scope of the budgets that we're working with. And you can see over the years, I mean, we got a fund balance of all the funds of right around $11–12 million. That stays fairly consistent. And you can also see that the lion's share of the revenues that we get is coming from our service charges. Yes.
Good.
Good.
I was just gonna say, so I noticed that your ending fund balance is, while healthy, is smaller than previous years, and I'm gonna guess it has to do with those loans that you're expecting to be forgiven.
It's-
No.
No, we
Well-
didn't factor that in. Let's see, which one is,
I mean, that if the loans are forgiven, the ending fund balance.
oh,
is
right.
better.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll get, yeah, we have, the capital plan for this year is really high. And part of that is because we're counting on some of these loans coming through.
And I'll have follow-up questions on this when you get to me to probably answer them before I ask. So.
Okay,
Other revenue is almost $4 million. What does that entail?
okay. There's a lot. It might be better when we get to each fund to address that, because, you know, that's gonna be things like, you know, permit fees, that's gonna be, you know, the different types of reimbursements that we get. Sell when we sell dump trucks.
This year particularly, what you'll see once we get there on page
Yeah.
28, there's the $2 million capital loan reimbursement
Yeah.
that we'll be receiving. So that is significant this year compared to other years,
Yeah.
for that one line item.
Yeah, and I'll highlight, as we get to each fund, I'll highlight what falls into the other category, because there's just a lot of different things in there.
On the operating revenue, so in terms of reserves for a lack of a better term, a rainy day fund, an emergency fund or something like that, you're only reserving 1 month of operating, that's all you're required to do?
I thought it was more than that.
It's
I thought it
3.
was-
It's 3, okay.
Yeah,
Well, 1 month at 8, okay.
oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was 2 months.
It's 3, but at that one section, I apologize, still has 1 month on there.
And I have a question on that ending fund balance area too. I mean, you're subtracting for the reserve for the regional interceptor STCs, but, or I should say, you're not subtracting for that, but you are subtracting for the 1 month or 3 month reserve number.
Okay. So, yeah, okay, so the regional interceptor SCCs, and that's kind of an odd one. So that's a tough one to explain. But basically, we have a requirement under the regional agreement where we put a certain amount of money, it's like $1.05 per ERU into our capital reserve fund for the interceptor. We pay for that through STCs. But the STCs don't cover the full amount we have to pay, and that's where that number comes from. So that's money that we have. Can you help me with this one, Brenda? It's money that we've taken from our general fund into the capital reserve fund.
Right,
Okay.
I accumulate from 4 and
Yeah.
7, those two funds.
Yeah.
And then as we spend it, I reduce it and it just accumulates year after year, the net of those.
Yeah.
So I have a rolling amount because we don't spend.
So theoretically, we've put more into this Fund 7 Capital Reserve Fund than we've collected in SDCs. And on paper, at least theoretically, we can take that back out if we needed it, and that would be part of our ending fund balance. I think the real ending fund balance is at $7.4 million is really what is there as far as cash money that we could touch.
But shouldn't the unreserved ending fund balance be the 7.5 million minus the other two?
Can I take a shot at what I think?
Try,
we do?
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but I think. So, I mean, the reserves for the regional, what goes into your unreserved ending fund balance, Carl does not have authority to spend that without reconvening the budget committee. So I don't think there's any expectation that in this budget year, you're gonna spend the $3 million. But the reason that the operating is shown as a negative, because they might have that something could happen as kind of an emergency fund, you have to reserve 3 months. And so that's a negative because you might have to access it, whereas 3 million, there's no expectation you'll have to access it this year.
Right.
How they do.
Very good.
Yeah. That is good. And this is one that's confused me a lot over the years too. And I've talked to the auditors about it, and the auditors understand. And I can probably put together a better explanation for that particular item if that might be helpful.
Well, I mean, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
John said.
But you're the only one that's ever asked that history.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And also, and part of what Eleanor's question was about the ending fund balance being so much lower. A big part of that is that you've got the contingencies in there. And when we get through the end of the year, the contingencies are taken care of and done for. Usually rarely touch those, but they're in the budget right now.
Just a clarification, you mentioned ERU, that's equivalent residential unit?
Yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay, I'm sorry. Catch those
I
acronyms.
gotta watch the jargon sometimes.
So would it be appropriate to drop the word less from the beginning of revenue for regional interceptor STCs?
It might be less confusing that way. Use the word less when I said less confusing, but
It's really an ad,
yeah.
I guess.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think maybe we'll see if we can find a better way to present that. Okay. All right, this is just a pie chart showing where our resources are and where our requirements are. I think this one is really useful. This is talking about where the revenues are coming from. You can see how important service charges are to us. And then our overall expenses, kind of a nice blend, about a third to capital outlay, about a third to personnel, and we're a quarter to treatment charges, a little sliver for debt service, and the materials and services, the last little piece there. So that to me looks like a good balance. We do like to put a lot of effort into the capital side of it. Again, this is just another summary of all the different funds that we have, both the resources and the requirements. And we'll get to more detail on each one of these funds as we go through. And this is more of that. Okay, now we get into the real guts of the budget. So our general fund, I mean, this is the primary fund that we operate out of. This is where we receive all the revenue for SGCs and for our rates, where all our expenses on personnel, capital, or most of our capital expenses are, they all come out of the general fund. Okay, this is
So just in the narrative section, it notes that SDCs account for 3.5% of the general fund. And I'm assuming that's just paying for the SDC administration of the SDC program. 'Cause I mean, overall SDCs are quite a bit more than that.
Let's see, where did we get that percentage from? Let's see. General fund revenue. Are they quite a bit more than that?
Well, you look at your total SDCs that you receive for.
Okay.
In the agency, and I'm just assuming that you leave 3.5% in there for to cover the administration.
No, that would have been, that might have been a typo. Let's see, what's 500,000 divided by 15 million? I think that is,
I think it's the-
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, it is a major source of revenue, but it is kind of been worked by the other sources. So this is our general fund revenue chart. And you see, like I said, we are projecting an increase in service charges for both the core and for Shady Cove. And just so everyone knows, the reason we have separate rates between the core area and Shady Cove is because in Shady Cove, we operate the wastewater treatment plant, whereas in the core area, that's for all part of the regional system, and Medford operates the plant. And it's much, much, much more efficient to do it that way, to operate the bigger plant. Yes.
But I do notice that it's a 6% increase across the board for the regular, and it's like 8% for Shady Cove.
Yes.
Is that just, I mean, I thought they were.
Yeah,
constant.
when we analyze the rates, really what we're mostly focused on in Shady Cove is the treatment plant and the cost of the treatment plant. And so that's completely separate from our other rate structure. So they're not going to be the
Which is
same.
mostly
Yeah.
collections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Like I said, we're not expecting too much change in SDC revenue in the coming year. The next item, the loans and assessments. These are areas where, like we've done local improvement district or a reimbursement district where we've paid for the initial construction of the sewer system, and then as people connect, they're paying us back. We've got a couple of these in Talent. The Oak Valley subdivision was one where we rebuilt the whole sewer there and we're assessing people as they reconnect. We've got another one that's outstanding here on Table Rock Road, where when the county did those road improvements, we went and got the sewer line in ahead of them, so that it's kind of a weird pocket area just stuck between Medford and Central Point that didn't have sewer. So we got that in there. So when those people connect, they're going to pay their share of the connection cost. So that's where these numbers come from. And this is one of the other incomes that we talk about. The reimbursement category, this really ties into our capital improvement program. So whenever we do a capital project, we're going to have expenses. We're going to have labor expenses and equipment expenses, depending on how all we do that. So we pay the money for the capital project that includes those expenses, but those expenses are being paid out of the general fund. So like if Nick designs a project, his labor costs, he's being paid out of the general fund, but those costs are being charged to that project. And so to reconcile that, we transfer the labor costs or the equipment costs back into the general fund. So this reimbursement category, that is really tied to the capital.
And O&M stands for that
Operations and maintenance. Yes. Call me out on all that because I don't always catch myself. The fees and charges, these are permit fees, tap fees, developer fees, different inspection charges that we have. So again, these are very much closely tied to the level of development, how many subdivisions are coming in, how many new connections are coming in. And then the last item is there, this is kind of another revenue source. And this is just whatever doesn't fit anywhere else. So the sale of assets, when we sell surplus equipment, that goes into there. Contractual services, there's times where a city or ODOT will call us up and say, hey, we need you to come out and pothole something or flush a line or TV a line. We charge them for that. So that's our contractual services. The COVID and the fire relief money, that's all in the past, but that's so that'll drop off this budget for next year. Interest charges, and then the capital loan reimbursement, that's a big one. That's the $2 million, and that's for a very specific project that we're working with DEQ to get a loan.
That's the DEQ forgivable loan one?
Yeah, yeah. So all total, we're looking at total revenues of about $15 million coming in. On the oops, and then the transfers. These transfers are very similar to the reimbursement transfers. So these transfers, so if we're doing work in a different fund, say the stormwater fund, same type of situation where all the labor that our staff is doing working on the stormwater program, they're being paid out of the general fund, out of the personnel budget. So then the stormwater fund reimburses the general fund for that. That comes back. So that's where all these numbers come from. On the requirements side.
So is that one of the things that's listed as other revenue?
Yes. Because that money, because like, for instance, I mean, using stormwater as an example, that has its own funding source. That money, that's the stormwater utility fee is being charged there. So it's a different revenue source than what the general fund has.
Okay.
Sorry, can we drill down on that? So I would find stormwater, for example, in that last set of numbers.
Yes, let me go back up to there.
Sorry.
So if you look down, right in the middle, like the fourth one down.
Is that fire relief? Yeah.
Oh, no,
You're in transfers?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so in
okay.
transfers, you look down where it says transfer from stormwater.
The one
quality.
that says stormwater.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
It's
so
okay.
that is all the labor and equipment expenses that we had that were charged to the stormwater fund. And you can see, the other funds that we have that are having similar transfers. Okay, on the expense side of the general fund, the four main categories are personnel services, where we're looking at almost $5.5 million. Materials and services, that's a big number there, but that includes the treatment charges that we pay to the city of Medford. And probably like 5 million of that 6 million goes to Medford to pay for the treatment plant. And then the capital outlay, again, about $5 million, and the big goose egg for debt service. So we like seeing that. And then let's see, we do have some transfers to other funds. We'll see these are going to some of the regional funds that we have, Fund 4 and Fund 7. Which leaves us with an unreserved balance of 4 million. Well, a real balance of 2.5 million. So we do have a fairly healthy balance there.
Yeah, a question back on previous slide. So your rate that you charge, $25.50, that includes treatment and collection.
Yes, yeah, we don't separate those on our billings. Is there another question?
I'm not, well, I didn't.
No. Okay. Okay. So still on general fund, just in more detail. This is the breakdown of our personnel services. About $3.5 million of that is going to salaries, and the remainder is going to benefits. Medical and dental insurance, obviously being the biggest one of those. We're real happy this year because we only had 2% increase in our health insurance costs, which was very nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I have a question on that. Is there, how come you're not budgeting for the emergency time off?
okay, so this is leftover stuff from COVID. So when the pandemic hit, there was all these requirements, like you had to give people, like if someone was sick, you had to give them paid time off without hitting their PTO, and there's a lot of rules on that. So we tried to create these codes to try to track when we were just having people, we were paying people to stay at home, basically. And so they still show up from 2022, but that's all ended. So that's not happening anymore. So that'll drop off next year's budget. It won't have this kind of sort of show. Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay,
I just did a percentage.
moving on. So that's the personnel budget. Yes.
One question, yeah, I was just out of curiosity, the residential healthcare savings account as opposed to other types of employer paid savings account. I'm just wondering, do you all have a union? Was that their request? I'm just wondering why you went with that.
No, we don't have a union. So the retirement health savings account, what we're trying to do there, we're not on PERS.
Oh.
And most public agencies are. And if you look at the overall benefit that we have really good healthcare benefits. They're probably better than most public agencies in the area. Our retirement is not, we've got the best healthcare and the worst retirement of all public agencies in a nutshell. And so this is an attempt to try to boost up and have try to get a little bit better.
So, yeah, sorry, same topic. So in your budget message, you noted that you're increasing the salaries, but then you're an additional 3% for retirement health savings.
Right.
So, okay, so the way I read that, it was a new benefit. It looks like that's been something you've had in the past.
That's it. So it is something that we have in the past for the management employees. Is it on here?
Oh, okay.
Okay, and actually it doesn't show up on here at all because that's a payroll deduction. That comes out of your paycheck. It's not a separate benefit. What you're seeing maybe is the HRA deductible plan.
I know.
So that is, what's the right word for that? That's an account that we have for each employee where we put a certain amount of money in every year, and they can draw on that to pay medical expenses. So you've got the insurance component, you've got deductibles and co-pays and all that kind of stuff. So this HRA deductible helps cover some of those expenses. So that's what that part is. The health, they use the same three letters in different orders to mean very different things, but the retirement plan, the health retirement plan, that is like an IRA that you can start drawing on when you retire. And if you use it exclusively for healthcare expenses, it's tax-free going in and tax-free coming out. So it is a nice benefit for that. So that for a retired person to have that helps them, pay their insurance costs or whatever.
And it's employee funded.
It is employee funded. That's why we are bumping the salaries by that 3% to offset it.
Okay, that makes sense.
We're looking at it again to keep the employees we have and to,
Recruit.
get others employees as we do benefits that encourage people to work for us.
That's great. As well as the good food, I think.
It's great for our current ones too. We love our current.
I know where I work. It's through a company that I do, like we call the health flexible spending account.
Yeah.
Right, but I don't think it comes out of my budget because employees contribute some more. It comes out of the
Right.
employees.
Yeah, they have that option to, if they want more, like kids need braces, then you can put more in for that. But this is the amount that the organization itself puts in and funds to each employee every year.
Okay, thank you. That's very nice.
Okay, any other questions on our personnel budget?
Yeah, Carl, before you go on the scroll up, I'll spreadsheet there. So it shows that you're reducing FTEs from maintenance by 6, but if I'm reading that right, all you do is you.
The construction crew is now part of engineering.
I was trying to tie the numbers to the workers. So if it's workers.
Yeah. Okay, materials and services. This is all the different stuff that we have to buy to keep things running. I highlighted a couple things here that I think are noteworthy. The bank charges, you can see we spend about $200,000 a year on bank charges. That's the credit card fees that we pay because we accept credit card payments. Now, there was a time where we didn't. It's been a number of years since we've started accepting credit cards.
Almost 10 years, I
Yeah.
believe, since 13. When we did that, good or bad, we did reduce my front office staff by 1.5.
Yeah,
Because we do, as every year, especially during COVID, we have so many more customers that are paying online. So our bank charge fees are going to increase, but our staff work of opening envelopes and depositing and all that is reducing.
and it does help with delinquency.
That too, yeah. Because
and
we can, if they call us and talk to us about, oh, I never got my bill and I owe $200, we can switch them right there to our automated phone system and they can make their payment right then and there. And we do get that quite often. So.
And we don't charge a surcharge for people using credit cards, at least not yet. I mean, that's,
right.
We talk about it sometimes, but we haven't proposed anything yet on
That's
that.
why the full expense is there,
Yeah.
the 200,000, so there's no wash to
Yeah.
another account that we're receiving fees from customers when they pay on.
Okay.
We're absorbing it all.
And if you know, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, can you quantify the impact on delinquency that conveniences, is it? It's noticeable, but.
I can do it by dollar value because I don't offhand know the exact numbers, but we were certifying about 250 to 280,000 a year, and we're down. I think last year was maybe 180,000 that we certified. But like Carl said, there's just some people that just don't pay the bill. It just goes on their taxes, and that's how it's done. And I don't know the mentality behind that, but there are some that just is what it is, and it depends on everybody's hard times of the economy during the fires, COVID, whatever. But there was to me, a significant increase or decrease in those that we certified when we started accepting checks. It was a slow thing. As they slowly were paying online, we were slowly having less and less that we had to certify. But I think my max was probably at 280, and now we're down to about 180, 200.
And that's with rate increases over the years too.
Oh, okay.
So it's dollar value is what I was saying. So
Yeah.
I don't have the number.
Nice, well, that's pretty.
It was a significant, so.
Okay, the contractual services billing, we have agreements with a couple of cities where they collect the sewer bills for us and send us the money and we pay them for that. So we have an arrangement with Jacksonville, Eagle Point, and Shady Cove. And that's just kind of a function of what was agreed to when they annexed into the system years ago. Other stuff. I'm not sure why I highlighted computer and software maintenance, maybe just because it's a big number. But yeah, that's, obviously we're very dependent on a lot of the computer applications that we use. Highlight. And then the very last item here, treatment charges, that's a pass through that we transfer that directly to the city of Medford. And that helps fund the regional sewer treatment. So that's all of, oh no, I didn't do the capital. So the capital outlay, the collection system rehabilitation, that's the bulk of it. That's us, rebuilding sewer pipes. We've got $4 million proposed there. And later on, we'll see the specific projects. The equipment, vehicles and equipment that we have planned, we had budgeted to get a new TV van and new trucks this current year, but availability is tough, and or lead times are really slow. So that's obviously not happening this year. We're gonna push that to next year. And I think we've already ordered the 3 half-ton trucks. We are going all electric on those. So those will be like our inspector vehicles and things like that. This is something that Shane's been monitoring real close and been watching this for years, because you've got the cost of it, but the range and everything is real important. And so it's taken a while for them to get to a level that we think is acceptable, that we can manage. But that'll be, but our inspectors and our locators, they put a lot of miles on their trucks. And so I think this is going to be a real nice improvement there. And then, yeah, we're due to replace one of our TV vans also. So that's kind of still on budget.
I'm just curious, how many TV vans do you have?
2. Yeah, we operate, if we have everything fully staffed right now, we have 2 flusher trucks, 2 TV vans out in the field, and then we've got 2 people working on utility locates and 2 people working on pump stations. Treatment plant, again, this is just upgrading some equipment that we need out there. And then here at the admin side of it, we are planning, this is kind of a guess number on the HVAC. And I guess you're feeling it right now already. Our heating system is 20 years old here, and it's kind of needing some upgrades. So we're trying to get that taken care of here in the coming year. Okay, the last page on this is debt service and transfers. So you'll see we paid off the revenue bonds for the current year. And then the transfers, this is money we transfer from the general fund into Fund 4 and Fund 7, and these are our regional interceptor funds that we'll talk about here soon. That is the end of the general fund. Any questions there? Okay. Fund 4 is the Bear Creek Interceptor Operations and Maintenance Fund. So the Bear Creek Interceptor is the main trunk line that goes from the wastewater treatment plant. We've got 3 pieces of it. There's the upper interceptor, which kind of runs along Bear Creek, Table Rock Road, ends in Talent. We've got the lower Bear Creek, which includes the Dunn pump station, and kind of runs up the west side, goes into Central Point and serves Jacksonville. And then we've got what we call the Old Medford Truck, or sometimes it's called the Camp White line. This was built back in the 40s, and that was the Old Medford line that used to go from Medford to the treatment plant, and that was transferred over to us back in the 80s. So those 3 pipes consist of the interceptor, the regional interceptor. The way that's paid for is there's an assessment against Medford. I think they pay 12 cents per month per ERU, and then we pay more. We pay like 50 cents out of our Valley Sewer. And the reason for that difference is because it's based on the percentage that actually flows through the Dunn pump station, because that has the highest operating cost. So you'll see here, we collect about $50,000 a year from Medford here, and we transfer $200,000 from our general fund to support this. Overall, the operation of the interceptor pipe doesn't take a whole lot. It's a really big pipe. It's in pretty decent shape, so it doesn't need a whole lot of extra work. We do transfer from this fund into the Dunn Pump Station Operating Fund. So you see there, that's at $150,000. And we have a pretty healthy surplus in here. And so one of the provisions of the agreement we have with Medford is if we have a surplus here, we can transfer that into a capital reserve fund. So that $350,000, that's going to go into Fund 7, and that's our interceptor capital expansion fund. So whenever the next time we do a big interceptor project, that's going to come out of that reserve fund. Again, not a whole lot happening there on Fund 4. Any questions there? Okay. Fund 6 is another regional fund, and this one is specifically for the operation of the Dunn Pump Station, which is our biggest pump station. It's out there on Kirtland Road. It's got 4 215 horsepower pumps that we just recently rebuilt. So that is that's where the biggest expense that we have. And I want to highlight a little bit here. You can see in 2022, we spent $44,000 for electric charges for that pump station. And that was during and while we were rebuilding and putting the new pumps in. So far, and this $12,000, that's through December of this current year. So that's halfway through the year. And we've used, what is that, less than a third of the amount of power. So the new pumps are a lot more efficient than the old pumps, which is and so we should see some of those savings moving forward. And again, there's not a whole lot here in this fund. We do have the ability to transfer surplus funds again. So in this case, we've got $650,000 that's going to go into our capital reserves. And so that'll be locked away and used when we do a next big project. Any questions on that one?
I have a little bit unrelated question. But so the proposed line pump station from Gold Hill up here, is that going to go to the Dunn pump station or directly to?
No, it'll end up in it. It's the point of connection there is on Blackwell Road. And so we have infrastructure there already that can handle it. And that system runs through the Dunn pump station. So they will run through the Dunn pump station. That's right. I might be able to pull up a map and show you if that's.
So it's gravity all over from Blackwell to.
Yes. Yeah, we've got a siphon right there by Savage Ready Mix that goes under Bear Creek and then it ties into the lower interceptor. Okay, Fund 7. This is our interceptor capital expansion. And this is where those big transfers that I just talked about end up. This is where we pay for all of the capital projects that have to do with the regional interceptor. The funding for this comes from both Medford and RVSS. We all pay $1.05 per month on our residential sewer bill that goes into that. So you can see we collect about $400,000 a year from Medford. A little bit less than that's coming from our customers. And the reason it's less is because actually all of our customers in White City and Eagle Point don't utilize the interceptor at all, so they're not paying that rate. So the projects that we do, you can see the Dunn pump station replacement, that $1.1 million. There was actually expenses the previous year too, so that wasn't the whole project, but that was the rebuild of our pump stations there. We've got a couple of smaller things going on. One of the ones is needing to upgrade all of our flow monitoring systems. Those were initially built back around 2000. They're pretty old, and the reliability is suffering. So we need to replace that. And then you can see this is the other place where we had revenue bonds that we paid off completely last year. So no real huge projects planned in the near future. There's likely going to be a time where we need to replace some big sections of big pipe. And when that happens, it's going to be pretty expensive. And this will help. Any questions on our Fund 7? Okay, White City storm drains. So back in 1989, people in White City on the industrial side were having problems with flooding and things like that. And they formed, I think they formed a kind of like a local improvement district. And somehow or other, we ended up being in charge of managing it. But basically, in the industrial side of White City, we are in charge of the storm drain system. And so we have a rate that we charge to the customers out there. And it's based on area, based on how much of it is impervious versus impervious. It pulls in about $70,000 a year. And we use that to maintain the system and to do capital improvements. We've got a handful of improvements that we've been trying to do. And we keep them on the budget and we say we're going to do them, but they're not a real high priority. So a lot of times, when we get squeezed and we don't have the labor to get these done, they're the ones that end up not getting done. So they're on the budget again, and we hope to get these done, but it wouldn't surprise me if that ended up not happening. But there's not a lot of problems out there anymore. There used to be a lot of flooding problems, and we've really gone through them, and the county's done a lot too. Upgrades on Antelope Road. But so they don't have huge flooding problems, but there's some areas that still need to be addressed, and they are on our list, and we do plan to do them.
Carl, on one of your capital projects, there's Avenue F and 8 storm and sewer.
Yeah.
This is a dedicated fund that can only be.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Assuming the differential.
Yeah, it would be separate. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, right there, Avenue 8. That's one area that still sometimes gets flooded. Right where the railroad tracks cross. Okay, any other questions on that one? All right, our stormwater quality fund. So we hold the NPDS permit, that stands for National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, for the municipal stormwater systems for Phoenix, Talent, and for Jackson County. And so we charge $1 a month for that to the customers in those areas. And that money is used for basically to implement the stormwater program. The stormwater program has 6 main components. It's got a public education component. It's got a public involvement component. It's got the construction site erosion control. It's got a post-construction stormwater management, and that's kind of a weird title for it. But what that is that's things that people build when they're doing construction that stay there after they're done to contribute to water quality. We've got an illicit discharge detection and elimination component. And the last one addresses municipal operations. So that's going to be things like street sweeping and vehicle maintenance. So anyway, we are the permit holder, and we are the ones that are implementing this. It's a pretty big operation. It's only a few people that are actually doing it within the organization, but so that is continuing. We are involved in some of the Earth Day celebrations and Salmon Watch. That's on the education side of it. On the illicit discharge side of it, we actually go every summer and we pick stretches of creek that we have to walk, and we look at the outfalls and we take samples. And if we find something that doesn't seem right, then we have to kind of go upstream and try to find the source of it. Which it actually is pretty effective. We've actually found a couple of places where someone had inadvertently connected a sewer pipe to a storm drain, and we were able to detect it that way and eliminate it. And you find other things that you find high bacteria counts, and a lot of times you can't find it because it's raccoons living in a storm drain and things like that. But there's no like illicit discharge type thing. The construction site work, we actually are agents of DEQ, and we implement what's called the 1200C permits, which are the erosion control permits for construction sites. So we review those plans and we issue those permits and do the inspections on those. The post-construction, the big one there is that we've developed a design manual for engineers when they're designing sites. And that just got redone with the new permit cycle. We had to go through and redo that whole process. That was a really big effort. That got completed back in February. So that's kind of the guidebook that all the engineers are using when they're designing. That pretty well summarizes it. But we do take on some capital projects, and I highlighted those out here. We've got 3 of them that we have planned. The Cummings stormwater facility. This is the old Walmart parking lot in Talent. We've got a site there that actually the property owner donated some land to us. And we're going to build a regional facility there that's going to accept the drainage from about 50 acres of Talent, in an area that was mostly burned. So that's going to be a real nice feature when that's completed. The 7th Street stormwater facility is very similar. That's in White City. It's a little bit smaller. It's about the same size area. It's in the industrial side of White City. And again, the property owner donated some land to us, and we're going to be able to use that to build this regional facility. And then the last one, the Coleman to Glenwood. This is another pretty interesting one because we're partnering with Jackson County and ODOT. And so ODOT is doing a bunch of highway improvements on Highway 99 north of Phoenix. And they had a requirement to build stormwater management for their project. And we were talking with them, it's like, make it a little bit bigger and then we'll partner with you on that. And we got Jackson County on board, and Jackson County actually has some land there on Glenwood that's part of the Bear Creek Greenway. And so Jackson County is giving granting access to this facility. ODOT's going to build it, and then we're going to take care of it. So, but this is going to cover, it's a big area. It's not only the whole highway, but it's also take in, I don't know, 100 or so acres of outside the highway. All that stormwater is going to be running through the facility and being treated before it gets into Bear Creek. So we're pretty excited about all 3 of those. Yes.
So when you say take care of it, are you also going to be doing the maintenance or just the periodic?
Yes.
checking in on it?
Yeah. So we do the short straw maybe.
Okay.
Jackson County just had to sign some papers and give us the land, and ODOT, they're spending a lot of money to build it. But once it's built, then it becomes ours to take care of forever. So
Because when we're talking about municipalities, it's, that kind of falls to the cities to do the maintenance,
Right.
and you all do the checking to make sure it's in good shape and
Right.
letting the cities know.
right for this particular one, this is we're going to be the ones doing the maintenance on it. So whatever ends up being needed, we'll have to do. And that's kind of putting us in a realm that we haven't been before. We maintain stormwater facilities to a certain extent, but like the vegetated ones, all 3 of these are primarily focused on infiltration. So they're retention facilities. The one in White City is not a little bit less because it doesn't infiltrate very much there. But the one in Phoenix and the one in Talent, those are all basically all the water that goes in is going to leave through the ground. It's not going to be surface flow. So managing the vegetation and everything, that's going to be a critical part of the maintenance. We'll probably have to contract with landscape contractors of some sort to take care of that, because that's not really, we don't have the tools or equipment or expertise necessarily with our staff to do that. And for the small number of facilities, it doesn't make sense to hire additional staff for that. So we'll contract that most likely.
So when you say facility, like it's a physical, how big is it? Just curious.
So the one in Cummings, and I think Nick's on the phone here. Nick might be able to tell us how big it is, but the one in Cummings, it's probably going to be about 30 feet wide by 60 feet long, maybe smaller than that.
It's like a couple 100 feet long, 230 feet long by like 20 feet, 25 on the bottom.
Okay.
And then the future pair at the Coleman Creek site, or the Coleman to Glenwood site, that's the whole facility bottom is 1 acre. So that's a big one.
Yeah, and it's shaped like a pear, so when you're flying over it, you'll look down.
Done intentionally for that purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
to the uninitiated, it just looks like a ditch, like a
Yeah.
wetlands, like a, nothing, unless there's that nice interpretive sign.
Right.
So like the one at the Coleman is gonna be, it's open, or is it gonna be like storm tech facility? It's gonna be covered. You know?
No, it's gonna be an open,
Oh, okay.
like a,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna hold water year round. It might, but, but yeah, it's gonna be just open. I think there's gonna, part of the issue with Jackson County is it has some kind of special designation when the land was given to Jackson County that it had to be used for recreational purposes. So in order to satisfy that requirement, we have to put a trail and some benches around it to make it a recreational facility. But it'll be nice. I mean, it'll be kind of the place to sit in DSDs and clappers and stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
tonight-
another bird watching opportunity plus other little critters. So, and the little critters will like it.
Well, it's an ideal use of that site. And that site, I used to manage that site. It's a headache for the county.
Yeah.
People dump garbage in there and it's just a real problem. So this is a great use for it. I did have one question on this fee overall. How do you collect the $1 per month from single family and the $1 per 3,000 square foot outside the incorporated area? I mean,
We
what's
only
your bill
collect
then?
it if we have a sewer bill.
Okay.
So it's attached to the sewer bill. So we just automatically exempt anyone who's not on,
Okay.
who we're not collecting a sewer bill from because it doesn't pay for the
I might
postage.
have a $1 bill.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions about stormwater? Okay. Moving down, Fund 50, so this is Shady Cove Treatment Plant. And this is just the general expenses we have to keep that thing operating. And I guess I did want to highlight, we do try to make a practice of transferring some, about $50,000 a year from the operations fund into their capital reserve fund for the treatment plant. Our capital reserve fund, we have a couple of sources of revenue going into it, but one of them is coming from Shady Cove. You'll see we still have that bond that we're paying on behalf of Shady Cove. And that one, I think it's set to expire like 2040 or something like that, but we might look at paying that off early here in a couple of years. We've traditionally done that. I mean, just to save on interest payments just makes a lot of sense if you can. Nothing real unusual going on there, though. Our next fund is Fund 55, and this is our capital fund for treatment system. So the money we have here comes from a couple of different sources. It was initially, when we annexed Shady Cove, they had some capital reserves that they transferred to us. It was about 700, almost $800,000. So that went into here dedicated to capital projects. Like I said, we transfer a little bit of money out of the treatment plant operations fund into here. And then we also transfer from our lagoon fund. And lagoons, we get revenue from them for septic tank pumpers for their tipping fees. It generates a pretty healthy surplus every year because it doesn't take a whole lot to operate it. And so we take that surplus and put it into here as well. And then what we use this fund for is to fund any capital improvements with our treatment facilities. So that benefits both Shady Cove and the lagoons. And just kind of, yes.
Well, when we first got Shady Cove, we allowed the pumper trucks to go out there for a while, and we got revenue from that. It wasn't a healthy situation for Shady Cove. So that's when we kind of ramped up the lagoons, and we found out that was a better fit. And so it makes sense to join those two things and let some of the revenue from the lagoons go to help take care of Shady Cove.
So you'll see, oh, do you have a question, John?
Go ahead.
At the treatment plant, we've got a couple of significant projects planned right now, and that is our SCADA upgrades and our UV system. So our SCADA stands for System Control and Data Acquisition. And so that's kind of a remote sensing thing, and we are actually, Kevin's able to turn pumps on and off and things like that from anywhere in the world. And we always like to tell this story because he was on vacation in Costa Rica one year and we were having some problems, and he got on his phone and started fixing this. But
Kevin's a little bit of a geek.
But the system that we have, it's out of support. It's antiquated. Kevin actually, what does it go? Windows 7? It's a Windows version that is not supported. He actually went and bought a handful of old Windows 7 machines and loaded the software on all those, because when they break, they're done for. So anyway, we've got a consultant working on that. We're going to overhaul the whole thing and get it done proper. And in the UV system, we have right now the disinfection is done with chlorine gas. And there's been times where chlorine gas is a weapon of war, and so it's probably not the best thing to use. It's effective, it works, but it's the supply is getting harder and harder to come by. The costs are getting more and more, and just the overall safety aspects of it. It's just not a good way to go. So we're wanting to convert that to an ultraviolet system, which uses basically black lights, ultraviolet lights, and they kill the bacteria as it goes through that. So both of those projects, we're actually working with consultants. Those are projects that we're not designing in-house. So we've got consultants working on that. This is one of the ones where we are applying for DEQ funding. So we're also going through that process of getting the funding from DEQ there. Yes.
I think you answered this already, but for the Shady Cove plan, you have about $500,000 worth of capital project that you're doing, and you only transferred $50,000 from Fund 50. So the remainder is basically being spent from your beginning fund balance, where they paid you some money up front.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. And I mean, we did make a conscious decision not to try to separate the lagoons from Shady Cove on the capital side of it. And part of the reason, what Kate had already addressed, is the money that we're collecting at lagoons is from the septic waste. We were collecting that at Shady Cove initially. When we first started operating that plant, the bumpers come to us like, why can't you take this? Like, why can't we take it? Okay, well, and we started taking it and started making money doing that. But the plant's not set up for that. That's hard on the plant. And when the opportunity came to start using lagoons, we just shifted that revenue from one plant to the other. But, so we try to check, we're keeping them together that way. It is a bit of a subsidy, I think, to Shady Cove in the long run,
But the lagoons aren't dedicated funds. You can spend them anywhere you want.
right,
Yeah.
right.
The whole thing is to keep all the systems healthy. And so it's just like anything you do. If you have something that works well in one area, that's where you keep it. If it doesn't work well, you switch it to something else, because you still have to do it. And so that's what we found was the best thing. This was that the pumper trucks need someplace to dump. The healthiest place, the best place is the lagoons, not Shady Cove.
Yep. And then at the lagoons, you'll see it's called the compost project, because that's what it was called when we first initiated it years and years ago. The lagoons has been a dragon eating these things for a long, long time. And we're finally, I think, at a point right now where we're starting to realize its full potential. What is called the compost project, that's where we built 3 new lagoon cells out there. Initially, there were 2 cells. There was a 15-acre cell and a 20-acre cell. The 15-acre cell is still there and intact. The 20-acre cell we've kind of carved up. We've made 3 smaller lagoon cells, and we've got an area of about 14 acres that we said we're never going to need this, and so we're basically managing that to enhance bird habitat. The place is really popular with bird people, and we've been working with them to, try to make it a little bit better. We put, and part of the motivation here is they're out there anyway. I want to keep them where they're not in our way and where they're not going to put themselves at risk or anything like that. So we got a dedicated area. You go here, you don't go here. And so it's a little bit of a learning curve because, people don't necessarily read the signs like they should. People still go places they shouldn't. But we're getting there on that. Anyway, that project's almost completed. And when it's completed, or at least this phase of it's completed, we won't really have any limitations on how much septic waste we can take. Right now, we sometimes have to turn bumpers away because we hit our capacity. So that'll help a lot. And then, the bird side of it, it's pretty nice. Those of you who've been out there, you understand it. It's very unexpected in an area like that, to see this. Oh, this is nice. What do you think?
I think the dragon analogy, I'll go a little bit further with that. Dragons like to keep your gold and all this stuff. Well, you don't think of sewage as gold or anything like that, but in this case, it is. It is because out there, it provides so many different things. And now the dragon has butterflies and birds to chase after. It's a cool thing. It's a really cool thing.
So I'm one of those odd birds. I don't know if you heard Carl this week, some parties found a snowy plover up there, which is an extremely rare and endangered bird. They're migrating, so they showed up out there on your new site.
Okay, I heard that.
Yeah, Monday, it was just there for one day and they kept on migrating, but that was pretty cool. It's a nice facility.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, my younger daughter says that bird watching is one of those old people things that creeps up on you.
Too late to do one of them.
Yeah, I deserve that.
Yeah, I have the bird app on my phone now, so. Okay, so anyway, that's our Fund 55. That's what that is meant to cover. Any other questions on that one? Okay, moving on. Okay, so now we get to the Gold Hill funds. And the first iteration of this, we had everything zeroed out because we were done. But now it looks like that's coming back. And I mentioned this earlier, and I'll just say it again. The city council has adopted a resolution, Gold Hill City Council, asking us to annex them. Yeah, then there's also an annexation agreement which kind of stipulates, how all assets are transferred, things like that. They're taking that up next week, and those are going to come to our board of directors in May. If our board of directors agrees to it, we send it to the county. The county schedules the election. The election date would be August 22nd. And if it's approved, once everything's certified, the county issues a board order, and Gold Hill becomes us, we become Gold Hill, probably sometime in October. So that's that side of it. What that means we have to do is City of Gold Hill is under orders from DEQ and have been for more than 10 years now to fix their treatment plant. And they have a bunch of other stuff they need to do, but the thing that's remaining is the treatment plant. The options that they had was either to rebuild it with a couple of different types of different technologies, or to abandon it altogether and make a connection to the regional system. Abandoning it altogether requires annexation, so that's kind of the way they're going. Initially, they thought they would rebuild it. Once they started seeing the cost of that, then they realized it was a huge mistake. So if we end up annexing them, we're going to be the ones that are going to be building that pipeline. It's going to be paid for by Gold Hill residents exclusively. So whatever financing we get, that service payment is going to be on their sewer rates. They are looking at $100 a month sewer rates.
What do they pay now?
It's right around 60. And it's going to go up in July up to like 78. And then when the project is done and the bills come due, then we'll have to make an adjustment to get it back to enough to cover everything. The project itself is big, and it's building a pretty sizable pump station and about 8 miles of force main pipe. And trying to put that into context, City of Gold Hill, the entire city right now has 7 miles of sewer pipe. So we're talking about building 8 more to get them connected to us here. The project, is, your initial estimates is around $15 million. They'll be able to get some of that paid as grant money, but they're still going to have really heavy debt payments. And again, putting that in context, if you go back to the very beginning of the discussion where we said fund balance, all funds combined, it ain't $15 million. I mean, that project itself is bigger than our entire operational budget. So it's a big project, and there's just a small number of people that are going to have to pay for it. But the alternative is worse. So,
And you're estimating it, the public is in Gold Hill is gonna be told your new rate will be about $100 a month.
yes, we've told them that on many occasions.
So what's gonna happen to their mind when they say that's
So-
what it is?
Their alternative is probably a $200 rate, honestly. I
As
mean,
long as they understand that.
yeah, and I think they
that's
do.
getting
And
right across.
there is a pretty well-organized group that's been pushing for this for quite a while. And we're gonna end up doing some town hall meetings and things like that to make sure that everyone gets the right information on that. But the alternative, I mean, if they vote it down, that's that doesn't hurt us at all. If they vote it down, then we're done and we're out of there and they figure it out. But I don't expect that is what would happen. I mean, the board can reject it too. I mean, you guys still have that authority if you decide that that's not worth the energy. But that's what's happening in Gold Hill. And then as far as the budget itself, I just copied from last year to this year because I know that will cover what we have to do. There's so much influx right now. It's kind of tough to predict anything beyond that. It's a little bit more coming up, and this should cover us. Yes.
So I know the possibility for grant money is kind of a wild card. Is it possible though that would impact their rates going to RVSS? It wouldn't, would it, even if they
It wouldn't have much of an impact. Well, Gold Hill's not going to impact RVSS rates at all.
Sorry, I didn't, for Gold Hill, the RVS version of their rates.
The rates that we charge to them.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
So if the annexation goes through and the project gets built, the way we would set their rate structure is they would pay the same as the rest of our customers, Talent, Phoenix, White City, everybody else, plus the debt service. And so whatever they get in grants and whatever they get in favorable interest rates or whatever it is, that's going to affect that plus debt service part of their component. So right now, when I'm looking at, I looked at what they had offered for rebuilding the plant, and I just extrapolated that to building the pump station. And you add our $25 rate to that debt service, and that's like $106.
Mhm.
So
That's based on a certain financing scheme.
and the way they do that is they go through the Infrastructure Finance Authority, and they bring in a couple of different funding agencies, and and they end up taking from like 3 different funding agencies because they all have different terms, different rates, different amounts of grant, and they just try to package that up into the best deal that they can get. So.
And just follow, so once that capital cost is paid off, would their rates could go back down eventually, 20, 30 years
Right,
out?
they would be the same as anyone else in our district.
Okay,
I mean,
so it's kind of a temporary hit.
2057.
Depends on the old jar.
Yeah.
you recall what the original estimate would have been to replace their treatment facility before all these discussions came about?
So in the facilities plan that they had that was completed in 2019, the cost of the pipeline was around $9 million. And the cost of the other options were in the $7 million range. So yeah, you had two of the biggest inflation years we've had, in memory, in the interim there. So that doesn't help any. But yeah, if they had acted immediately as soon as they got the facilities plan, it would have saved millions.
At least 3 or 4 million.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Carl, so the budget you put forth for this year is just basically keeping things the way they are today.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're operating the plant, you're operating the collection system.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the best we could do. When we originally did the budget and zeroed them out, we won't know till June, May, if we're gonna annex,
Yeah.
or how that's gonna happen. Either way, the annexation wouldn't even be approved till August, September.
Yeah.
So, in the effort to not have to reconvene the budget committee for a supplemental budget, I'm hoping this will get us 5 for the next
Yeah.
year, and then fiscal year 25 will.
Yeah. And I guess just to say one other thing about what we're proposing here is right now, Gold Hill pays us $30,000 a month for all the operations. That's plenty. We don't have a hard time, doing everything we're supposed to do for that amount of money. So what we're budgeting is just using that amount for the operations. If the annexation goes through and we start collecting all the bills, we're gonna get more money. And then we would establish a capital reserve fund for Gold Hill. And so anything above that, 30,000 a month, would go into their capital reserve, and we would be able to draw on that when it comes time to actually build the project.
I'm just curious, when's this have to be done? Are they under-
Under orders from DEQ? Yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah, so they got their facilities plan approved in November 2019. They were supposed to have their preliminary design within a year, and they still haven't done that, so. And I actually have a meeting with DEQ this afternoon to talk about that, but I think DEQ's been kind of dropped the ball on this and not really held done any enforcement on it, and just let it linger like this.
And they're spending all their time picking up Bedford, so.
Because it's easy, because they know you'll respond and you'll do what you're supposed to do, so. they get results.
And they can afford to pay the fines.
Yeah.
That too.
Just another curiosity question. If I'm a resident of Gold Hill and I'm looking at, $1,200 a year for sewage and stuff like that, how much would it cost me to and how much would it cost me to put a septic tank in?
You could not.
I guess legally I cannot.
Legally, you could not. No. You don't have an option.
Okay, very good.
Septics don't work good in municipal and small ones.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay. So we actually have 2 Gold Hill funds. The second one is, one's for the treatment plant, the other's for the collection system. And we just transfer money from the first fund to the second fund to do maintenance operations. So, we have and all of those expenses really come down in the labor and equipment charges. That's what we go out there and flush. This last year, we actually went through and flushed the whole system. So it's pretty solid right now.
I was just gonna ask, just curious, so the system's not a disaster?
No, it's actually not.
Good.
Well,
I like the way she laughs because
she's heard this before. So much of the system is 6-inch pipe. Almost half of it is 6-inch pipe. And part of the work they're having to do with DEQ is they had to do some rehabilitation of their collection system. And they actually slip line some of that 6-inch pipe, which is a terrible idea because it just makes it smaller and smaller, and it doesn't work really well. And then there's others where they actually dug it up and they put 6-inch new 6-inch pipe right back in, which again, I mean, that's kind of disastrous. So that's a problem that's going to be with us for a long time. But as far as the soundness, the infiltration or anything like that, it's in pretty good shape there. Yeah.
PVC pipe or?
Well, all the original stuff is concrete, but the stuff that they've done recently is mostly PVC.
Okay. Which is supposed to be a lot cheaper and last, what, like 100 years or something?
Yeah, well, concrete's not good for sewer. It doesn't last as long. PVC, you know, you should get 70 to 100 years at least from a PVC pipe. You know, and it doesn't leak as much as concrete or anything like that. Okay, and then our last fund is the lagoon fund, and you'll see, you know, this is where we get the tipping fees from people from septic tank pumpers, and you know, we budgeted $450,000. I just looked at our third quarter; we were already up at like 430, so we're probably going to end up higher than that. It's a nice facility, and you know, it's a real boon to the septic tank pumpers, because prior to us opening that up, they were trucking all the way up to Roseburg to dump. So this has been beneficial on a lot of different levels. So you know, we do have some operational costs to keep it going, but you know, what we try to do is keep the fund balance, you know, somewhere in the range of about $100,000, maybe a little less. And anything above that, we would transfer back over to our capital resource fund. So with that, that's all of our funds. The rest, the back half of the budget, we have it broken down by departments, which is the same numbers, they're just packaged up differently. And so that's real helpful for our department heads when they're looking at it, you know, making sure that they're not spending more than what they're supposed to be spending. I can go through those real quickly. You know, the administration side of it, that's me and Brenda and Carol. Carol on there?
No.
Oh, Carol's not even
Jimmy
on
and
there.
Joan.
Yeah, just Brenda and I. And that's basically our finance and billing. You can see where we spend our money there. And again, these numbers here, these are all, you know, we've already covered those in the different funds. They're just added up differently. Our IT department, that's Carol. There it is. There's our work truck on IT.
They booted you out the back. They booted you out, you bounced back. I guess.
And so this is, you know, a lot of this expense here comes to like our software management. Our engineering, again, that's Nick and his team. Yes, okay.
Question in here.
Uh-huh.
I can- We were gonna do something with the security stuff.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that at our next board meeting. Yeah. So what Kay's asking of is, you know, we do have a lot of things that we're doing with cybersecurity. But those are things that you don't talk about in open session. So that'll be something we're not going to the board.
I was-
Yeah.
If there was a line item for it. Anyway,
Yeah, you don't want
that
that.
would be in the computer stuff.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was asking. I wasn't asking. Okay, that makes sense.
Right now, I am on, looks like I'm on page 82. I was just getting started on the engineering department.
It's 66 in here.
60.
Oh, yeah.
That's PDF page.
My PDF pages. Yeah, so the engineering, that's Nick. We've got a couple of people on his design team. We got our inspectors, and we got our permit folks. And we're permitting. And yeah, the expenses over on the engineering side, it's almost all in labor. I don't really spend a whole lot of money on anything else. Okay. our stormwater quality side. So that's under Nick right now. We have a program coordinator and another stormwater tech in there. The program coordinator, that position's been vacant since the beginning of the year. But we do have a person hired for that. His availability isn't until June. He's actually in the military and his retirement is at the end of May. So, but it was clearly the best candidate, so we figured it was worth waiting. So this guy starts in June.
Carl, back on the engineering budget.
Okay.
So you guys don't consult out any engineering work for the most
No.
part? How come? You just don't, there's not a need to, or?
We don't have time. I mean, we do almost all of our design work in-house, and that's pretty taxing. I mean, that's a lot of work there. Yeah, I'll take that back a little bit because we did for the City of Talent. We agreed to prepare a stormwater master plan for them. And this was it before COVID? It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
COVID
It's
happened
been a
in the
long-
I think I saw a
environment.
draft.
And yeah, but that turned out to be a lot more work than what we initially expected, and we won't do that again. You know, I think Eagle Point asked us if we would do one for them also, and I said, no, we just don't. It's too much of a burden on the staff. It takes too much. At the end, what walks in the door, you know? It's gonna take up all your time. And you just don't know when you're gonna have that. Right? So. All right. Where was I? Does that work?
Shane.
Yeah, you're looking now.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, whatever glitch, turn off my microphone. So the ones I have highlighted are the ones that we've applied to DEQ for funding on. Everything else is just being funded out of our regular revenues.
Sorry, what page are you on now?
I am on page 84, which is just the overall list of all of the capital projects that we have.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out which ones you've highlighted.
Oh, they're only highlighted on mine.
C
Yeah.
12 and 13 is middle of the page, C4.
Yeah, so
So that's the SCADA upgrade in the UV system.
it's what?
The SCADA upgrade
Yeah,
in the UV.
Right, and then the coming stormwater facility and then the Antelope Fork project. So that's that. And then the last is our treatment department, and that's Kevin and his team that manages the 3 treatment facilities that we have right now. And also, that's where we pay for all of our, the big chart here, that 88%, that's what's going straight to nitrogen. So. And that is all of our departments. The rest of the budget document itself is mostly, informational. We've got our 5-year cash flow projections. That's, part of what we use when we make our rate recommendations. We've got our capital improvement plan, 5-year capital improvement plan. So you can see we've got projects lined out for quite a ways into the future. We've got more capital improvement stuff. These are all descriptions of the projects if you're interested in seeing what a specific project is. This is our vehicle equipment replacement schedule. So you can see we've got some stuff planned for this year and on out for the next couple of years. Heavy equipment also. You can see when we're planning on replacing the various equipments that we have. Our staff levels, salary ranges there. And that's something we adjust every year in June. This is when I highlighted this because number of accounts. I mean, a lot of it's back, but that obviously Phoenix and Talent took a much bigger hit than we did, but it was fairly significant. So I wanted to highlight that. The debt, highlight that again, that we paid it all off. I'll keep saying that. Let's see, this historical information, rate stuff.
I got a question on this one.
Yeah.
But I'm just not following numbers. Next page up. Like the 2024 budget, I mean, those numbers don't look.
No, you're right. That something doesn't look right there. I think there's a typo. I think the 2024 budget, that should be 5.4 million, not 2.4.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Good job. You
Yeah.
get the sucker for the day.
Thanks.
I'll fix it. I will send out a corrected page if you'd like.
Okay, and this is some statistical information about the different projects that are coming in the door and how much maintenance work we do. We do a much more detailed statistical report, usually in September, that has a lot of information. It's called our CMOM report. It stands for Capacity Management, Operation and Maintenance. I think it's on our website. If you really want to geek out on a bunch of numbers, it's there. Our top 20 customers, Amy's Kitchen, Boise Cascade, Carestream Health, the VA Dom, and on down. Gold Hill would not register on this list. I think they put about 2 million gallons a year. It's pretty small. Glossary of terms.
And on the acronyms, Anna, there should be in the terms, there's a couple that I didn't have that I caught and I'll be adding to, but the acronym should also be in the glossary.
Oh, no, look what happened.
Oh,
Why is that?
he hasn't changed his shirt since that picture.
This is the same shirt.
Well, you gotta scroll up a little bit.
It gets prettier.
Yeah.
That's old Taz.
I wanted to put that in there. So Mike's been with us since 1994. You know, he's been on the board of directors for an awful long time. He's actually the second longest serving board member we've ever had. He's decided not to run for re-election, but I wanted to take a little bit of time to just acknowledge Mike's service. He's been really beneficial to the organization. He was very instrumental in getting Eagle Point connected. He made a big push for equalizing rates. We used to have different rates for every city, and Mike really pushed hard to get that corrected, and so we have a single rate for everybody. And just on a personal level, I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for Mike. You know, Mike's been very supportive of me. He's been very helpful to me, and I don't know if you remember when Mike was on, when he was the chairman of the board, he was really, really good chairman. And he really, I mean, the way he controlled the meeting and ran the meeting and the efficiency and everything, it was masterful. And I tried to emulate it. I've had a couple of times, you know, I was president of the engineers licensing board and the STAO for a period of time. And I always tried to draw on that. It's like, you know, try to be like Mike. That's the way I always try to run a meeting, is to try to emulate how Mike did. And we're going to miss you. And, you know, I'm wanting to do this here when we get more people here rather than, I was going to do it at the board dinner, but you weren't there.
Usually I'll follow the food anywhere.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, it's been a real pleasure having you on the board, and we're really grateful for all that you've done for us. And I think the whole valley should be as well. And wish you the best.
Thank you very
It's
much.
one thing to be on a board, another thing to be passionate about it. I can recall back in the meetings regarding the talent SDCs post-fire, how passionate you were in that one meeting, which told me you are really passionate about your job. That's what I like about you.
Thank you.
I have a thing to give you, Joe. I'll go get it here in a minute.
Only reason I'm going is because my dog insisted, "You're away too much."
We need you to know more often.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that dog has gotten me through COVID and a lot of health issues. They're too smart.
They know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, we thank you, Mike.
I used to run like that too.
Now it's running to the John like that.
All I could remember as my legs started going away with this neuropathy was, if I can stay standing while I swing the golf club, I can do that with the cart. It doesn't work.
What's your doggy's
His name is Taz, T-A-Z.
name?
And it's funny, if I go through drive-throughs, they see the collar hanging on, and he always sits in the back seat behind me. And they'll all say goodbye and hi to Taz, never a word to me.
So every single person needs a manhole lid with their name on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Very cool.
Oh, nice, thank you. It's true.
Okay.
Let me tell them one more story, and that is,
Before you put it down, take a picture, open it.
okay,
Send us copies.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
I ran into a problem at my manhole, right, but they placed a manhole right in front of my mailboxes, and I went there, got the key out and down the drain it goes. And I'm thinking, what am I gonna do? I know, I'll call him Carl. And he did. He says, oh, just give me a minute, tell me where it is. And it's over in Twin Creeks area in Central Point. He was out there in 5 minutes. He had his hook to open the manhole and go down and get my keys and jumped up. Only Carl would.
Did you rinse the sewage off of them? Or you had the
No, it
back
was a storm drain. It was okay.
It wasn't sewer.
Okay, ready to proceed? Yes. Any other questions of the budget officer regarding the proposed budget?
I have a question. Yeah, I just wanted, if you could just expand a little bit more on the forgivable loans, from the DEQ. I know none of that's sure, but, you know, do they tend to be 50% forgivable, 100%? How does that?
So
work?
the current program that DEQ has with it's called the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. And so it's low interest loans, it's like a 2% interest loan. And their loan forgiveness, if you qualify, and we do, is either 50% of the project or $500,000, whichever is less. So that's the expectation that we would have. There's speculation that hasn't come to fruition yet, but there's speculation that they're going to have to increase that because part of the infrastructure bipartisan infrastructure law. Part of that, they got a bunch of money from the federal government to fund that program that had requirements for how much they need to be grants. And the speculation is that with the current arrangement they have and how much principal they give, they can't meet those federal requirements. So they're going to probably have to increase that. We're hoping for that, but you know, like I said, we don't know for sure yet. So, and we're not the only people making that. So the more people that apply for these loans, then there's less money for forgiveness.
And there are some cities that give you discounts on water. If you pay your water bill through the city, they also discount you everything else regarding water and sewage. He might not be aware of that. We could, it's at the point. If you can declare that you're a certain percentage of the poverty level, only one income, for example, if you can't afford your weekly or monthly water bill, you put an application in and they review it and they at least cut back at least half of your water bill costs and sewer costs and stormwater costs. They may still reimburse you in the district, but then in this case, the actual homeowner does not pay the full bill.
And that program has doubled.
Yes.
It's doubled what, in the last 2 years?
They really pushed it about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They went through all the manufactured home communities that have a majority of them are seniors.
Yeah.
And in our park, for example, we made a copy of that, sent out to all 270 members. We probably have about 30 homeowners that are now involved in that program.
That's cool.
Any other questions of the budget officer? Seeing none, I need a discussion of the budget by committee members and attendees when recognized by the chair. Any discussions that we need to have regarding this proposed budget? Or comments, or complaints, notes, add-ons, subtractions? Any comments or discussion at all? Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you, Carl, for the tour a couple of weeks ago with me and Mike. I think that taking the time on a Saturday to see the entire system up close really helped me understand the budget a lot more. And I think y'all are doing really great work. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually sorry I missed that.
Yeah.
I'll have to give it.
Wait,
back.
wait,
Sorry.
wait, wait. I want to say that I really appreciate how you put the budget together. I find it's very user-friendly and able, I mean, I've been on other budget committees and I found this one.
Don't get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some tell us next month. They do a good job too, but I just want to say I appreciate that. It's very simple to read through and so thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Next order of business, we need an approval. A motion to approve the budget document as submitted or as revised by the budget committee. If you want to make the motion, number 8 per sentence is the actual motion we are looking for.
A question before that. So does this committee approve the budget or do we have tentative approval and the board approves the budget?
Yeah, the final approval comes from the board. So,
So this is a.
so
tentative approval?
yeah, what we would hope is that you would approve the budget as submitted with a few of the clerical corrections that Brenda's noted. And then the actual resolution that adopts the budget goes to the board. And what they approve is actually very truncated for, I mean, really, it's just the bottom numbers on all the pages is what actually gets approved.
Yes,
So, Mr. Chair, I would move that the committee approves the fiscal year 2024 budget as amended during this meeting.
motion approval by John Vile, looking for a second.
I second it.
Seconded by Mike Parker. Thank you, Mike. Call the roll, please.
Eleanor,
Yes.
Renner, Kay Harrison,
Yes.
Mike Parker,
Yes.
Anna D'Amato,
Yes.
Mike Parsons,
Yes.
Roger Tom,
Yes.
John Vile.
Yes.
Are there any additional meetings needed or required? So the next motion, the next action will be approval by the board, correct?
Right.
Okay, that'll be next month's board meeting,
It'll be June.
June, okay? Very good. Any other business to come before us about the budget? Need a motion to adjourn.
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please, or just aye.
Yeah.
All approved, aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
Carried.